Local programming on KRWG made possible in part by viewers like you. Thank you.
Welcome to Fronteras, A Changing America. I'm Edmundo Resendez. While posing for a picture at her new university home, Grecia Rivas realizes that enrolling at Western New Mexico University marked the next step in her journey to bring awareness for her people. Today on Fronteras, we get to learn about the extraordinary journey of Grecia Rivas, who is our guest on Fronteras, A Changing America. Grecia, welcome.
Thank you.
And, I'd like to welcome you because you recently enrolled at Western New Mexico University after going through an interesting journey. You want to talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, it was definitely an interesting journey. It was a long journey. I'll start from the beginning. I'm from Nogales, Sonora, Mexico. I moved to Tucson, Arizona when I was 3 years old. I went to school. I went to elementary, middle school, and all that in Tucson. But when I hit high school is when everything started to kind of enroll and kind of come apart, because I didn't know what I was going to do. It was I was going to go to college or if I was just going to start working. I talked to a couple of my counselors, and they simply didn't know what I was going to do. Like, they didn't have an answer for me, for an undocumented student, of what was my next step, if I could go to college, if I could apply for any financial aid or anything like that. They didn't have an answer for me. So that was when I took initiative, and I got in contact with an organization called Scholarships AZ. And the director helped me go through the whole process, and he gave me the resources, and we talked to the right people at Pima Community College, and I was enrolled, and happily I graduated last May with my associate's degree in liberal arts.
So you went through the process of researching and investigating with your high school counselors, and they basically told you there was nothing they can do for you and really couldn't offer you any advice.
They literally told me, you can't go to college. That's not even a dream. You can't do it. And that was something that really struck to me, and I was like, no, I'm not going to let that stop me from going for my dreams and looking for opportunities.
Now, you had long wanted to go to a university. Throughout the process in high school, were you aware that you were an undocumented immigrant?
I was. My parents always were really out about it. They never told me not to tell my status, or they never lied about it. So I always knew I was undocumented. I didn't tell anyone. The only person I talked to was actually my coach, my basketball coach, because I played basketball for years. So we had to go to away games, and one day we had to go to San Diego, and we had to pass through the checkpoint. And I remember it was so funny. We were in a van. Everybody was in the van, all the athletes and me and the coach. And I was literally sitting behind my coach, and he was literally red. He didn't know what he was going to say, what he was going to do, because he knew I was not undocumented. So we were passing through the checkpoint, and he was literally sweating like crazy. And after we passed it, he was like, oh my gosh, how did I just do that? So it was those little experiences, and he was actually the only one that helped me through the whole process. He even said, I'll adopt you. If that's the only way for you to go to college, I'll do that for you.
How does that make you feel to have that level of support from what essentially began as a complete stranger that's willing to put themselves on the line?
Well, I can't describe it. It was something that will always stick with me, and even today he has been my number one supporter. We've always been in contact. He's now actually the principal at that high school, so that makes me even more happy for him for being in that situation. Now he wants to help undocumented students. Now he wants to make the high school more open for everybody.
How, after you learned again in your high school that you were not going to be able to go to college, you decided to do some research. Were you alone in this process? Were there any other undocumented immigrants that you met with?
When I got involved with the organization, that's when the organization is built out of students, only students, and a lot of them are undocumented students. So that was like my support system. We all worked together, and even to this day, we all work together. Actually, 10 of us from the organization graduated at the same time last year, and actually myself and 2 others are going to university now. So it was like a group kind of process. We all helped each other.
You were, again, born in Nogales, Sonora, Mexico, and you came to this country at the age of 3. You're currently enrolled at Western New Mexico University. Will you be the first family member to graduate from college?
I am. Yes, I'll be the first. And I think that's a big challenge and a big something in my shoulders, because I have a nephew that's 21. I have another nephew that's 20, and they're at Pima Community College as well. So I'm like their leader, their support system as well, because I've helped them through the whole process as well. So they're always looking up at me, and I have like, I have to do good, because they're looking up on me. So.
How do your parents feel about the process that you've gone through? You've recently moved away from Arizona to New Mexico. Mm-hmm. How willing were they to let you go, and to see you go through this dream?
It was really, really hard for them. Latino families always want to stick together, be in the same place. It was really hard for them. They even now call me every single day. But they're extremely proud. They're my number one inspiration. I do everything I do is for them, and I wouldn't be where I am without them.
Talk to me about your experience at Pima Community College. Did you meet other people such as yourself who are undocumented that were going through the same process that you were?
Yeah, actually, the community college thought that there were only 2 undocumented students in this whole school of more than 75,000 students.
More than 75,000?
Yeah.
Okay.
So they thought there were only 2 undocumented students there, until they realized that, no, there's more. And the reason how they realized is because we came out of the shadows. That's how we want to call it. And we started rallying, and we started going to their Board of Regents meetings and actually telling them, you need to provide more inclusivity for all students, not just the people that are able to have the money to go to college.
Let's talk about this organization that you're involved in. You seem to be very active with it. And how many people have you met and shared your story with, and how many stories have you heard that are similar to yours?
I actually see the organization as my second family, because literally we met every single day, projects after projects, meetings after meetings, workshops, going to high schools, going to universities, and teaching educators how to provide the resources. And I've met a lot of other undocumented students, and I was able to share my stories. And that being said, by going to conferences, it was my first time flying when I went to one of these conferences. So I was able to do that. Just definitely meet a lot of people that are going through the same struggles, and just listening to their stories, and at the same time realizing that I'm not alone in this struggle, that there's a lot more people that are fighting for the same things. And also that I also thought that I was the only one going through this struggle. That was the only one that had problems, that had barriers, but no, there's millions of others like myself. And like I said, I always thought my story was the worst ever. But no, when I hear of other students in Guatemala and Chile and all these other places, it's like, I'm super blessed. I have not even gone through half of the things they've been through, and they're alive. They've been through more.
Let's talk about the current political environment that exists towards undocumented immigrants. You watch the news. You get to learn about the rhetoric that exists. How does that make you feel, and how does that make your fellow students feel about how immigrants are being portrayed?
It makes me so angry because that's not what we came here for. We're not robbers, bank robbers, or we're not here killing people. It's not. We want a dream. We're here for our education. We're fighting for our education. And we're not asking anything for free. We want to fight for it. We want to go through the whole process. We're willing to teach them. We're willing to teach our educators how to support us. Other students like myself are just really into fighting for our education. They're preparing. We're going to conferences and uniting all together to see what our next steps is gonna be.
Let's talk about DACA. You are currently protected under this law, correct? When you first found out that this law was signed, how did that make you feel? And what was your reaction like?
I still remember I was at my house with my mom, and she was the most she was screaming, and I was just like, oh, it passed. It was bittersweet because I always think of my family first. It was like, okay, I'll be protected, but what about them? So that thing is always like, what about them? And even if we have DACA, that's not enough. That's totally not enough. This can be taken any moment. As soon as the president changes, it can be taken away. So it's definitely not enough. That's why we want to go for a DREAM Act. That's what we're looking for.
And what are you doing to promote the DREAM Act with politicians? How active is your organization with that, and how active are you with that?
So my organization is part of another big organization. It's called United We Dream, which is youth led by more than 75,000 students. And they're the ones that actually at the top, they're at Washington, D.C., they're fighting, they're actually outside the White House. They're going to the meetings with legislature. And so we are like a subcategory, a sub-organization within United We Dream, which is the big organization. So we get in contact with United We Dream. We've been in contact a lot. We see what are we gonna work, like what are major steps next. Not only nationally, but in our state as well, because it's different in every state, especially in Arizona, which is a super racist state.
Let's talk about your current college education. What are your professional aspirations? What is it that you want to do with your career at Western New Mexico University?
I want to get my Bachelor's of Fine Arts with an emphasis in graphic design. So I want to be a graphic designer. I want to work with an advertising agency that promotes mostly nonprofit organizations, and I want to be able to kind of help out the movement, right? Raise awareness of the things that are happening. So it's social justice. I also want to double major in education because everything I've been doing along with my organization is all about education. So I want to continue to help students and eventually become a teacher, hopefully.
What happens after Western New Mexico University? Do you have aspirations to go and get your master's degree as well?
Yes, definitely. I want to get my master's, and I've always said I'm going to go back to the University of Arizona. I want to get it there. I want to get my highest there because that's always been my dream school, to go there because I've lived there for a long time. So I want to get my master's from the University of Arizona.
What do you hope, because people see you as a leader, as somebody that's active in your community, what do you hope can be achieved for you personally down the road by doing what you're doing right now?
I hope to impact a lot of students. I hope to impact a lot of people's lives. I hope to change the system. I hope that legislation can hear us and see what's happening. I want to make a difference, definitely make a change.
What other dreams and aspirations do you have? You are very active at school with different committees. What drives you?
To help people. That's my thing. Help as much people as possible so they don't have to struggle and go through the same things that I did. I'm a big believer in change, that we can change. we change policies, we can change people's minds, and just bring awareness to what is happening. There's a lot of people that are not educated and bring up those misconceptions about people. I want to bring that awareness.
Growing up, I would imagine that you got to see the country in a totally different way than most people do. And you might see the country in, two countries. One that has your family in hiding, and then then all of your family and friends being out and open, out there. Mm-hmm. What do you hope can change with comprehensive immigration reform?
I hope there's no more family separation, because that's a killer. There's a lot of families being separated nowadays, and I want that to stop. For me, I haven't seen my family for over 17 years. My dad hasn't seen his family for 17 years, so it's really hard. Especially my grandma. We just recently got told that she has cancer, and she's been having a lot of health problems. We even thought she was gonna pass away like a month ago, so it was really hard to see especially my dad. So that was definitely really hard.
You have brothers and sisters. There's 4 of you in the family. What's their experience like at the moment?
Right now, they're all USA citizens because they married. But they're always my biggest supporters. They're always telling me, "You can do this. You make us extremely proud. Like, we didn't have the opportunity that you did, but you do. You do have it now. So you're making it up for us,
You have nieces and nephews as well. What would you like for them to experience in this country, as far as they're never going to experience what you've experienced? But, in telling your story to people, your family, and also, people that don't know you, what do you want them to get from your experience?
Definitely appreciate what you have. Appreciate every single moment, everything that you have. You can be more privileged than others, so appreciate what you have, because not all people have that. As well, believe that you can change someone, that you can change the policies that we have. Just basically, just make sure that you're doing the right thing, and you're educating yourself before even thinking or creating these misconceptions about people. Educate yourself first.
In the time that you've gone through this process, actively gone through this process, have you met anybody in particular that has overcome the process and have become legal residents to the United States?
I think the people that I've met are either they got married, but everybody that I've met, it's either in my same position. They don't want to get married. That's out of their minds. So they're still waiting like me. But all the people I've met, they got married or somehow had a family member that was able to get them a USA citizenship.
You still have family in Mexico?
Yeah, a lot. Half, yeah, more than half.
When you talk to them, what are their aspirations as they see you going through the process and seeing some of those challenges? What are their dreams?
They're extremely proud of me. I can't say I'm really close to my other family because it's just been a long time that I haven't seen them, but they're always supporting me. They're always telling me, "Grecia, I'm really proud of you. Glad you're doing what you're doing." I mean, they have their own aspirations, but sometimes it's just like, we'll stay in Mexico, and here's where we've grown up, and this is where we are from. So,
if you could talk to the leader of the House, Speaker Boehner, what would you tell him about what you have experienced and what you want to experience?
First of all, I want to make education accessible for everybody. I don't want equality, I want equity. I want education for all. I want you to to erase those misconceptions that you have about not only students, undocumented students, but our families. We didn't come here to rub anything. We come here to work, to educate ourselves, to move forward, to give us an opportunity, give us a chance, and we'll definitely prove you wrong. And we are here to help you. Let's work together.
What would you say to the president?
To the president. Keep fighting for us. No, keep fighting. I know you made a big step to give us DACA, but even that, he didn't give it to us. We fought for it. All the rallies we went to, all the meetings, us as students, we all fought for that. He didn't give anything to us. So just keep fighting for us, and let's make the Dream Act a reality.
In the 80s, in 1986 to be exact, you probably weren't born at the time, President Reagan, along with the Congress, passed comprehensive immigration reform. And at the time, that program was seen as, as the most conservative of the programs that could be available. Mm-hmm. And over the years, what's happened with a lot of those immigrants is that they became residents, and then in time became U.S. citizens, and then in time had the opportunity to vote. And if you look at the current statistics as far as the large, one of the larger immigration groups for that's going to come and turn out, it's going to be Latinos. Mm-hmm. How is it possible that that kind of cooperation, in your opinion, cannot be duplicated today? The cooperation to pass immigration reform versus today, where there is no cooperation to pass it.
Yeah, especially in our Latino community, they don't vote. Mm-hmm. I actually did a lot of canvassing in Arizona. We went house to house, making sure everybody got registered to vote. And the community that we target was Latinos, and half of them didn't want to register, and simply because they're not educated. They're like, why am I going to vote? There's never a change. I don't even know who's running. So they need to educate themselves first, and also be aware of what's happening. This is your community. Be aware that you're going to make an impact. There's a lot of millions of people that would love to vote, but don't have that privilege that you have. So it's basically just educating our community and letting them know we need your help. Help us. And a lot of people that I encountered and actually talked to them that did not want to vote, they were like, so why should I vote? And I was like, you know what? Let me tell you my story. And I actually sat with them and tell them my story. They were like, you know what? For you, I'll do it. And they did change their minds. So that was something that was really powerful for me, because my story changed their way of thinking. And that's one of the things I really want to do.
Well, and again, to add to that, I think that having a face of immigration, talking to them, does make a difference. Because again, if you leave it up to no communication with the community, they're not going to understand what they're really fighting for. Because there seems to be, for what you're saying, a lot of cynicism of, I don't want to vote. It's not worth it.
Yeah, definitely. They simply don't want to do it.
So what about the people in your age group? What are you doing with them to get them active in the immigration movement?
Making them aware of what the situation is, that we definitely need to unite. In order to make change, we need unity. We need to come out and tell them what we need. And especially just going to students and talking to them and make them realize what's happening, and that they need to stand up with us and fight with us, even if they're not undocumented. Because there's a lot of people in our organization that are not undocumented and are still there helping us. So that's great to see.
You are currently under the protection of DACA, if you want to look at it that way. What's your next step? What's your next legal step for your process?
Well, as of right now, wait. I mean, we renew DACA every 2 years. So every 2 years you have to pay $495. So it's basically it's a waiting game. Or either I get married, which I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon, but it's a waiting game.
And so, as you go through the waiting game, what do you do?
I keep fighting. I keep activism. I keep working with the people that surround us, with our community, with our politics, trying to bring awareness. And that's how we were able to get DACA. So that's how we're going to be able to move on and get the DREAM Act or immigration reform.
How's your semester looking?
It's looking great. It's looking good. A lot of reading. Started a lot of reading, a lot of homework, but it's going great. I'm an RA. I'm a resident assistant for Western New Mexico, and it's been a great experience. I'm not a big social person, but this being an RA has helped me a lot to come out and just simply be more active and talk to a student. It's definitely been a great experience being at Western. I'm really happy I made a decision to come here. The staff is great. They're really friendly. Even the whole community is really immigrant friendly. That's one of the reasons I chose Western. And it was the best decision I could have done.
Well, Grecia Rivas, thank you very much for joining us today on Fronteras,
Thank you.
A Changing America. I'm Edmundo Resendez.